Now we're about to find out why we believe that she is the best candidate for the job of Connectional Lay Organization as the Director of Lay Activities. And how we're going to find that out, we have just a few questions that we're going to ask the candidate in hopes that you'll be able to learn and to know and to be reassured that she is the best candidate for this job. So, Ms. Wright, the
Yes,
first
ma'am.
question.
I can't wait.
The first question is, how will you manage your time as you complete your term as president of the EEDLO when you, Madam President, are elected Connectional Lay Organization Director of Lay Activities?
How will I manage my time? Ooh, that's a big one. Well, I heard somebody say, and it's very, very true, that busy people stay busy. And that has been the mantra and also the situation in my life. I'd also say that we know that we are person-led, but I want to say that we're person-led, but we're process-driven. So over the course of time, as the president of the electrifying 11th Episcopal District, I have made it a point to establish processes so that no matter where we are in the Episcopal District, the processes will still be the same. It won't be forward, it won't be contrary, it won't be in conflict. With that being said, we also have very, very fine persons. It's about succession planning. It's about having someone able and ready to step in. And so if there should be a time when I'm unavailable or not there to attend a session or a meeting, there are people, because of the processes, because of the training, because of the persons who can step in. As the Episcopal president, I have the luxury of manipulating or adjusting the times. And also in this position as Connectional Director of Lay Activities, I'll be in a position also to help influence the times. And so with those two positions, I would have a very, very good handle and or influence, if you will, on the times and the schedules to help them not conflict. But in cases when they do, again, the process, the people would help to expedite so that it could continue in a smooth running operation.
Very well. The second question, will there be a paradigm shift to develop a lay study guide? And if so, what would it look like?
The study guide is always at the forefront on the mind. Paradigm shift, paradigm meaning a way of work, the things that we are usually accustomed to doing. I would think that the discipline speaks to preparing an outline for the study guide, an outline. That outline can take on many, many structures and many, many frames. So a paradigm shift if you think about in the past, we've had a physical book.
You're muted.
Yes, I noticed that. Thank you. In the past, we've had a study guide that has been, or that is a compilation of lessons, compilations of anecdotal information that has been contributed by very good lay persons and even clergy. And the usefulness of it, it's very useful. But when I say usefulness, I mean that after we have looked at it, after we have gotten over the novelty of it, how useful really is it? So a paradigm shift, I think, is in consideration for the next study guide, in as much as it will include technological aspects, components. There'll be online resources and references. There will be some YouTube, some sessions, some quick go-to references. The study guide ought to be a reference. We refer to the discipline whenever we want a handy quick reference. And of course, we all read the discipline from cover to cover. But in those times when we aren't doing that, we refer to it as a handy reference guide. And so the study guide ought to be that too. If I'm wondering about how to organize a lay organization, there have to be some place in the study guide. So I look at it as not being maybe a one thickly composed and compiled book versus modules that we can use to refer to, either technology wise or hard copy, because hard copies are very, very handy also. But in addition to that, the key to a useful, a working, a resourceful study guide is accessibility. And it ought to be accessible not only through technology, but through language. I know that in various countries, many countries do have English as a second or third language, but sometimes it's also good to be able to access a document in your first language. So we will work to have the study guide available, languages, various languages, online, have it relevant, have it timely, and have it as a reference tool, so that it's just not a one and done, because training is never one and done. Something that we can use time and over again, and more importantly than that, refer other folks to it, so that it becomes a working tool that will be in our arsenal of teaching and learning.
So I think in a nutshell, you're saying that it would be easily accessible for
Yes,
all.
ma'am, absolutely. That's the desire. Mhm.
Very well. Question number 3. What is your working relationship like with the candidates who are aspiring to be Connectional Lay Organization president?
I can say, wow, that asked some tough questions. But that's a good question. Well, because it's really critically important that the director of lay activities has great relationships with the candidates for president. I can tell you that I know all 4. I've had various working relationships with them all, either whether serving as a fellow Episcopal president, serving as a committee member with them, serving as a someone who attends the executive board meetings and the biennial sessions, and seeing their work and working along side by side. So my relationship is one wherein I'm aware of the work and the skill set that each brings. And because of who I am and the knowledge and the concern for the lay organization that I have, our relationship won't be an issue, because we know that we can only do this work together. We do this work together. It is not an I thing. It is the unity of purpose, the collective wisdom in the room. And certainly there's a whole lot of it in the lay organization. And so we just know that we need to work together. That's where I stand on that, Madam Dola.
Our next question. How can we mend the generational gap in the lay organization?
How can we mend the generational gap? Well, let me, if I may, try to reframe that for a moment. Because when you say, how can we mend, that supposes or connotes that there is something that is in disrepair, maybe even in disorder, or needs to be fixed. So if I could, in my, using a literary measure or way in my grammatical past, I'm a former language arts teacher, I would say that let's just fix the word. Let's change the word from mend to amend. Because amend speaks to adjusting. Amend speaks to revising. So let's talk about that for a moment. The generation. So the question doesn't speak to any generation, because we have so many generations. We have, somebody said there's a lost generation. There's a silent generation. There are the baby boomers. They're the Generation Xers, the millennials, the Generation Ys, right? Generation Z. So we're not talking about mending it. We're talking about adjusting it so that it is inclusive at everything that we do. If anything that this pandemic has taught us is that there's a space for every single generation. It has made us emboldened. There are folk who are in the generation that is, they're octogenarians, nonagenarians, right? Who a year and a half ago would not have even dared to let me get on Zoom. Zoom, or what? Or who? And so then we have availed ourselves of people who say, hey, come over here, young person, come over here, daughter, son, and help me. And together we have amended this generation gap. And it has been bridged because we still know that the work of the church has to go on. We knew that we weren't going to let a year pass by without the gathering together of ourselves. And so we found a way to do that. And we've done that by utilizing, exercising, galvanizing all the generations together. That's how we do it. Thank you.
Well, I am about to drink a little tea. And so I know often you like to, or you just happen to spill a little tea. Can you
Yes,
tell
ma'am.
us something about your spilling of the tea?
Certainly, certainly, certainly. And we want to spill the tea. We want to share the tea. We don't want to, we want you all to be able to, when you have a tea party, you make sure that everybody has their cup in tow. You make sure that you don't want to start until the tea has been poured into everybody's cup. And then you want to just say, hey, put your little finger out there and say, this is it. But tea is about teaching. It's about elevating. It's about advocating. You cannot have a more excellent lay organization without having teaching and training. It is the foundation upon which the organization has been predicated. It has been the thread that flows through our organization from the very beginning of time, 1912, even before that, because it was about some educated folk who saw a need for this organization wherein it had its beginnings. It's that same thing that flows through every Episcopal district. So when you talk about tea, if you put it simply, it's teaching, it's elevating, it's advocating. But if you want to be a little bit more thorough, you look at the objectives of the lay organization: to have a love for and an appreciation for constituted authority, for the history of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. You think about the nurturing and discipleship training, where they come in not to just learn a history of the AME Church, but to learn a history of the church that you're going to be a part of. You learn about the importance of being a class leader, the importance of how you can become a member and an officer. There's so much that just the acronym T connotes. If you took the first three letters, teaching, always. There are lessons that we can learn, that we have learned at the feet of our elders. And there are lessons, new lessons that we learn just by being thought partners, by sharing what might be happening over there, might be beneficial for what's happening over here. So when you spill the tea, I ask you to be courageous. Spill the tea and be bold. Spill the tea and be innovative. Don't shy away, because together with our collective thought is how we move the organization and ergo our Zion forward.
Thank you so very much, Madam President, for your time here with us. Let's give her a hand. If you have not, or if you didn't know before we started this today, I'm sure by now you know who she is, why she's running, and where she served.